And we're alive. We're doing it. Welcome to Cult
Woo!
EXE, a channel here on Plus One EXP. I'm Sarah, the high level monk and a cult leader here at Plus One EXP.
Oh, and I'm Keegan EXE, TTRPG's gayest little clown and the other cult leader.
Oh no.
Sir, you didn't read your script at all, and I'm upset.
Where is it? I thought they did. I'm looking right at it.
No, it's under run of shows. Anyway,
Listen.
you were supposed to tell us what your favorite first person shooter was immediately, and I was just really
Oh.
hoping to trip you up.
Yeah, no, I'm looking right at it. I don't know. It must not have loaded. It must not have refreshed. Because it looked, I
I
was
don't
like,
know.
I don't get it. But it's Borderlands 2, okay? All right? It's
Okay, cool,
Borderlands
cool.
2.
Shit.
Anyways. Plus One is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skin care alchemy, and the Bardic College of Content Creation. The dream
Uh,
and hope here. Oh, go for it. You tell them
no,
about the
you're
dream
good.
and
You're good.
hope. Are you
The
sure?
dream and hope here at Plus One's to help amazing designers find great players who love their games, and amazing players find great designers whose games they can love. And today you're joining us for part one of a two-part actual play series, and this time we're playing Choke.
Yes. We are joined. You're joining us for the part one of our To Learn Play special, where we sit down with the designer and our players, learn to play the game and build characters. So you'll have to join us next week for part two to see all the pieces in action. Before we dive into it, though, let's meet our designer and our player. We're going to go ahead and start with the designer. Clove, hi, hello, welcome.
Hi. Hello. Thanks
Can
for
you,
having me.
yeah, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell the people where they can find you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name's Clove Fulminata. I use they, them pronouns. Um, you can find all my stuff at Clove.Games. Very simple. I'm on Twitter at CloveRPG. Um, I publish games under the imprint Vagabond Pen and Paper. Uh, my sort of flagship series, as it were, is the Revenant World series. That's like a science fantasy coming of age thing. Got the games Revenant World and Ar Minerva in that. But my most recent release is Choke, which is a first-person shooter inspired game. I'm trying to see if the fancy cover shows up on the
I
camera at
can get
all.
it. I can get it. I practiced.
Oh, it's so pretty. It's so
Yeah,
pretty.
thank you. So yeah, I'm I'm not sure what else to.
That's great. That's perfect. We're so
Literally
excited to have
perfect.
you. And we're so excited to dive in this game. And next, our incredible player, uh, just one of the coolest people on the internet, in my opinion. Sammy, can you introduce yourself and tell the people
Uh,
where they can find you?
I'm Sammy, pronouns are she, they, Keish, and I am on the internet here, there, and everywhere.
Awesome.
Incredible. Gorgeous. Perfect.
Keegan, whisk us away on our adventure of
Yeah.
self-discovery.
So this is our first time doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna sit down right now and learn how to play Choke. So Clove, why don't you introduce us to the world of Choke here? Tell us
Sure.
about the game.
Yeah. So Choke is described as a blood-soaked tabletop role-playing FPS about rich butchers and broke meat. Um, it takes place in like a slightly alt history but real world-ish setting. It's set in a valley of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, in a town called Sullivania, Virginia, which does not exist. Um, and this is a company town owned and run by a company called Sullivan Allworks that is this diversified capitalist enterprise that owns basically everything around the valley. The characters that you play as are corporate knights, which are lethally trained mercenary spies and saboteurs on corporate payroll. Um, so, reading directly here from the book is you are valuable to Sullivan because of your capacity to kill and be killed in pursuit of profit maximization. You sell this valley to Sullivan, and Sullivan pays back a small portion by providing you the means to eat 3 warm meals a day, give or take, and sleep in a bed under a roof most nights. Don't take it for granted. So yeah, you play as these killers hired by this large corporation in the valley. You take jobs against their competitors to go like blow up each other's factories and stuff. Um, it's very inspired by the setting of Team Fortress 2 and in that game you've got the like red corporation, blue corporation. They're trying to like blow up each other's factories. Um, and that is about the world that we're in.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's great. Great. I guess let's jump straight into how do we play this thing?
Sure. So it's Choke is a GM agnostic game, and I know that in our next session we're planning to play with a GM. So I'm actually first going to read a section from the back of the book, which is the optional GM rules.
Oh, I somehow missed that it was potentially GM-less. I will also just build a character if that's the case.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, we don't need to read this then.
Yeah,
We'll
we can
skip that.
skip it. We're speed
Yeah,
running.
we'll do a GM list. All right. Yeah, so let me pull forward to. Thank you.
I keep looking at the
Thank you
screen
very
being like, look
much.
at what? And I'm like, oh, right. I can't see the actual screen.
Yeah, I got a peek at the stream on my phone. Yeah, so I've got the physical book in front of me. So the way that um, a like session or adventure or whatever in Choke is structured, they're structured around contracts. Um, I'm reading from page or referencing page 41 of the book. Contracts are how you get paid. Sullivan Allworks offers you jobs of sabotage, espionage, theft, and general disruption of their corporate rivals. Um, and so when we start playing, we will choose a target, which is one of Sullivan's competitors, and we will choose an objective, which is just like a very broad category of what the like type of sabotage that we're doing to them is. So the different targets that we have are the Meridian Rail Transport and Transit Concern. That's the shipping company in the valley. They're like an international rail conglomerate. Their backstory is that the guy who founded them, when the locomotive was being invented by like real inventors and stuff, this one capitalist was like, you know what? Let's go in and let's patent the railroad track, so that no matter who invents a train, we can control where they're allowed to like set up railroad tracks. And then the rest is history. He ends up buying out all the railroads and all that stuff. You've got Eagle Hawk Limited. They're the like big arms supplier in the valley. They started out as a federal department of the national government, but they moved off into private enterprise to make more money, and then so like senators can like invest in them and then give them like good like military deals and stuff. Python Pharmaceuticals is the big medical company in the valley. They trace back to Europe during the Black Death. They were like a healers or a collection of healers guilds that came together and figured out how to like protect people from or treat them from the plague. And then they realized like, wait a minute, we can sell this. Like we have the like key to life or death. That puts us in a position of political and monetary power, and that continued on. And then the last one is Grundlebane Mill. They're sort of the they do entertainment, and also they have like snack brands, and they have they just sell like toys and trinkets and stuff too. They do like folksy stuff, and they're like a little bit Disney, a little bit like Little
Okay.
Debbie, a little bit like a small mom and pop gift shop, but it's actually run by a corporation. And they're secretly like the most like fantastical occult
Okay.
corporation in the game. So yeah, so we choose who we're going to attack out of those. We choose an objective, which, like I said, are broad things: destroy an advantage, steal an item, obtain intelligence, or seize an area. All very broad things. And then the game goes over here that that this game is not about playing as Pinkertons. We're not killing civilian workers. We're not assassinating union leaders or decimating workforces.
Right.
The only people that we're licensed to kill are the deadly mercenaries that the other corporations have hired to protect their stuff. Most of the times will be so, you know, you're going to be loaded out with like all sorts of guns and stuff, but most of the time you're shooting at like mechanical arms or like a train that is trying to run you over inside the train yard, stuff like that.
Okay. Sick.
So yeah, so that's the overview of like what an adventure in this game is, I guess.
Okay.
There's also there's bounties where you can like take a side job from a competitor to like clear off your debt, stuff like that. And then this game is intended to be played with a map. So the book says at your table, you find a tactical game map, a video game screenshot, a satellite photograph, or some other illustration to represent the location you're sacking. You don't need like a tactical grid or anything. You just want to be able to like point to different things in a facility, as that'll come up in play. But you can do theater of the mind if we don't want to do that.
Oh no, we're totally getting a map. Are you kidding?
Okay, cool. So yeah. So yeah, the main meat of gameplay takes place within these contracts. Once you go into a contract, you can't leave it unless you bail on it. You can leave at any time, but you can't go back once you leave, right? You can end up dying on the contract. Let me see what is it actually. It phrases this well in the book. Yeah, you're in a mode of gameplay that isn't over until you bail on your objective and fail, successfully complete your objective, or die trying. So, so the way that you play through one of these contracts, so you have that broad objective. You can decide in specific what that objective means or not. You can save that and have it emerge and play if you want. It's up to the group. But to make mechanical progress towards achieving your overall objective, you're going to be attacking and killing something called fulcrums. So this is on page 43 of the book.
Okay.
Fulcrums take damage and they represent progress when you knock them down to 0, kind of like a health bar in a video game. A fulcrum is a minor objective that helps you get to the capital O objective that you chose when you took the contract. You can see on this page that there's a list of sample fulcrums. They're grouped thematically by like sets of 3 that would work for each kind of objective, but you can choose any one you want at any time, or you can make one up. And again, they're a little bit broad. You can make them more specific if you want. You can leave them open, all that sort of stuff. The way that to achieve your objective, you're taking these fulcrums that have essentially health bars, and you're reducing the health bars to 0. To get the like key at the end that lets you turn in a completed contract, you need to kill 3 fulcrums. So choose like 3 sub goals that you'll achieve to achieve the big goal.
Okay, that makes sense.
The way that you deal damage to these fulcrums is by taking tasks. So a task is any risky action that affects your enemies or your surroundings in a way that helps you achieve the goal of your chosen fulcrum. So whenever you take a task, you say what your knight does, and you deal 5 damage to the fulcrum. And that damage will be modified by other mechanics, but the base damage is 5, and a fulcrum always starts with 20 points of damage that it can take.
Okay.
Um,
I can already feel Sammy being like, base damage is 5, you say. How do I make this 15?
mhm. We'll definitely get there. So when you describe an action as a task, you always achieve what you set out to do, and your damage is always dealt. But the damage will be modified by other mechanics.
Okay.
You're capable mercenaries, and you have an acute sense of your own skills and limits. However, every task is risky, so you have to choose which of your assets you risk breaking. So this is the big mechanical meat of the game that we're getting into, risking assets. Um, I'm moving forward to page 45. On page 44, you could see that there's examples of tasks, but we can get into that in more detail if we need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So risking assets is like what you roll dice for in this game.
Okay.
You use what are the different dice? Let me look at the character sheet. Sorry.
No, you're good.
It closed my character sheet. Okay.
I feel that.
D4s, D6s, D8s, and D20s. Rarely D20s. God damn it. Okay, okay, sorry.
Make it my life's mission to roll only D20s.
Well, if we're starting at with base characters, it's unlikely you'll be able to afford an asset that gives you a D20.
That's what you think.
Challenge accepted.
You can go terribly into debt, but that has its own issues.
Just
so
like
yeah,
real life.
yeah. So
Ow.
so this stuff on page 45 and 46 is like the main meat of the game. This is like the mechanic, basically.
Okay.
So when you risk an asset, first you decide how treacherous the task is, and you give it a cost from 1 to 3. So if we were playing this with a GM, the GM might set that cost or something like that, but you can choose whatever you want, because how much risk you take on affects stuff later down the line. So you choose 1 cost, 2 cost, or 3 cost, and then you have to choose that many assets to risk. So to risk an asset, describe how it helps you achieve what you set out to do, and then roll its die. So every asset in this game is associated with a die, and so the different types of assets that there are is gone over in more detail in character creation, because you buy some assets and stuff. Every knight starts with 3 meat assets, which is like your physical body. Those don't take up any space anywhere because it's your physical body.
Right.
And they're each worth a D4. So that means if you're risking your own flesh, you roll a D4.
Okay.
Other assets include guns and paraphernalia. You purchase these from catalogs that start on page 19. And if you go to that spread, page 19 and 20, you can see that every gun and paraphernalia has a Tetris block, basically. And those Tetris blocks, however many blocks it is matches the die that you get to roll for it.
That's so cool.
Thank
That's
you.
nifty.
And on your character sheet, you've got these different grids. That's not going to show up at all, is it? Or maybe it does. You see the stash grid.
Yeah.
So you have to fit the Tetris pieces into your stash grid.
Get out. Oh no, I love it. This is very cool. This is
Thank
so
you.
cool.
Do
So
we
so
lose
when
our
we do,
assets if they all line up at the bottom?
sorry, what's that?
If we line up all of our assets
Uh,
perfectly,
Do we
do
get
we
a
lose a
Tetris?
line of them?
No.
Okay.
It's like yeah, it's it's like a Resident Evil inventory.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, so your assets take up space. The amount of space they take up is also the die that they roll. So if you go to page flipping through, if you go to page 25, you can see the D20 asset that the bandit can buy. Costs $10,000 and takes up 20 spaces in the
Yeah,
inventory. You can
that
see how big that
flamethrower.
Tetris piece is. Yeah. So that's why you'll rarely be rolling a D20.
I'm
This
gonna go in
is
so much debt. I can just feel it.
yeah. I just have to ask because this is like where did the Tetris piece like idea come from? Was it just like a Resident Evil inventory kind of vibe? Because I'm obsessed. This
Yeah,
is very cool.
I think I was just like inspired by video games. Like I thought it would be cool to do something tactile with an
Yeah,
inventory.
have like a physical representation of inventory. Because what I love about this is it like creates the unique. It creates and solves a problem I think in a lot of games where it's like how much stuff can you carry? Like what can you have in your hands? Like this is such a cool way to address that. Of like, well, do a puzzle and figure it out. Like I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it, a lot of the sort of design goals that I have with this game were sort of associated with like taking some things that aren't as fun
Mm-hmm.
in other games and then like tying them into really meaningful mechanics in a way that like makes them fun to play with. So like inventory space, weapon durability, like all that sort of
Right.
things like integral to the game in a way that I actually find fun. Whereas when it's like just an extra fiddly bit on like a D&D type game, I
Right.
don't find it as fun.
I don't want to just
So
list through and be like, is this equipped? Yes or no. Like that's
yeah,
boring. This though, cool as hell.
thank you. Yeah, so those are the assets that we're talking about.
Okay.
So yeah, each one has a different die size, usually a D4, D6, or D8. So you roll the assets die if you say that it's one of the assets helping you to do your task. And remember that your task always succeeds. We're just seeing how much of your shit breaks to get that success. So if you roll a 1 or a 2 on that die roll, the asset breaks. So again, this is, very video game inspired breakable weapons. I've talked many times before about how this is like taking Breath of the Wild's weapon breaking and making it like the main mechanic of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I know is Keegan's favorite.
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah, best part of the game for
Yeah.
sure. Didn't hate it.
So yeah, so if you roll a 1 or 2 on an asset, you after describing how it helps you, you describe how it was shattered, dropped, lost, stolen, jammed, emptied, or otherwise rendered useless in the carrying out of the task. And then so if it was like a 1 cost task, you do that with 1 asset, you move on. If it was a higher cost task, you move on to the next asset, you do that again until the cost is satisfied. You can't risk the same asset more than once on the same task unless you have more than one in your backpack.
Gotcha. So like if I had 2 SMGs, I could list those
Yeah.
twice, but I can't risk
Mhm.
the same one twice. Got it.
Yes. Unless some guns or paraphernalia do have utilities that
That
say
might
like
change
in this
that.
scenario you can use it
Gotcha.
twice. Yeah. A lot of
Okay.
them have like rule breaking stuff like that.
Right.
So when an asset is broken, you can no longer risk it, and you can't use its utilities, which are extra mechanics that it gives you, unless the utility says, when this breaks, do A or B.
Gotcha.
And you get to clear half of the squares it takes up from that grid. So the broken asset still takes up space in your grid, just not as much. And
Gotcha.
that's that space is space that you're going to want if you're picking up loot on the job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And every time you break an asset, you automatically gain either 1 leverage or 1 loot. It's your choice, and we'll talk about what those do.
Oh.
So it's sort of a little consolation. You broke the
Right.
thing, but you get a small benefit in exchange.
Right.
If you can't describe how any of your assets help you achieve your task, you could reframe the action. You could decide to let one of your squad mates do a task instead, or meat can always be risked, no
I was
matter the
just gonna
task.
ask. I was
Yeah,
just gonna ask.
yeah. You can always risk your meat, but if you break your last unbroken meat, you die.
That sentence, you can always risk your meat, is gonna sit with me for some amount of time. That's
Thank you.
gonna be with me for a while. Thank you for this gift.
You're welcome. And over on page 36, 37, if you do die, you can visit Sullivan's Corpsman, and it can patch you back up. But so death is not the end of your character, but it's very expensive to be medically treated for death.
Right.
Medically treated for death is
I know.
it's doing things for me.
That's how you can always risk your meat. It just hit right and I'm like, where's the lie? You can.
So yeah, so after a knight takes a task, any knight can take the next one. A knight can even take multiple tasks, one right after the other, if it makes sense fictionally. So no turn order or anything. Together, the actions you take to work towards killing your fulcrums paint the picture of the action of the contract. You can always take time between tasks to talk about what your knight sees, thinks, and does, and what the environment, enemies, and situation look like, feel like, and do. Killing a fulcrum should feel like the end of an action sequence in a movie, and introducing a new one is where the action slowly begins to ramp back up. And like I said, over a contract, you'll usually have 3 fulcrums, unless you have additional goals that make you decide to go after more.
Gotcha.
Uh, Taking gains, still on page 45.
Mhm.
So when you deal enough damage to bring a fulcrum to 0, your squad collectively takes a gain. So these are a meta currency that the whole squad shares. Outside of a contract, you can exchange gains for keys, which are another type of meta currency that grant you fictional and mechanical benefits. So in order to obtain the objective key, which is the meta currency that you need to turn in for Sullivan Allworks to say, okay, you did this contract successfully, you need 3 gains to buy that key. So that's why you'll normally be killing 3 fulcrums. In order to get a reward for successful bounty, which are those side contracts we talked about that you could take, that I briefly mentioned, that you could take with Sullivan's competitors, you'll need 1 gain, and you won't be able to put that gain towards success for the contract. That's like an extra
Okay.
piece.
Gotcha.
And it should be noted that you can pull out if it seems like things are going too bad and you want to pull out of the contract. You can pull out at any time with as many gains as you've taken, and there are things to like spend them on. Even if you failed the contract, there's some like extra little keys that you can buy, so that you at least get something out of a failed contract.
Perfect.
So yeah, so when a fulcrum is killed, we'll choose a new one and continue playing, or we will decide to end the contract and leave, depending on if we've achieved our goal or not and gotten as many gains as we want to have.
Got it.
Oh, that's actually the next section. I should have just read ahead. At any time during a contract, your squad can decide to cut your losses and leave, whether the objective has been fulfilled or not. You might find yourself in a dire spot without enough assets left to risk, or maybe you're holding enough loot that completing a contract is not at the top of your priorities. On the other hand, you might have enough gains to satisfy all the key purchases you had planned, but you're in a good enough spot that you can keep raising hell for a while to earn some miscellaneous benefits on top. Regardless, when you leave a contract, there's no going back. You immediately exchange any gains you earned for keys, which are detailed at the end of this section. So yeah, so so that's the main mechanic. We're going to talk about a few more mechanics that react to those mechanics, the amount of risk you take and stuff like that. But that's the overall thing where we pick a big goal, we pick a smaller goal within it. We damage it by taking these actions. We roll dice to risk our assets on these tasks. And when we achieve one small goal, we move to the next one. We do as many of them as we can or want to get as many benefits as we want at the end of the contract.
Gotcha.
So moving on to some additional mechanics, you can see there's a big header here that just says murder.
Mm-hmm. I was
So
gonna ask.
So when you use a task to kill another person, you gain and must immediately roll a choke die, which we'll talk about on the next page, I believe. It basically means that it'll be more likely for you to break an asset on a task where you murder someone as opposed to a task where you don't.
Okay.
Additionally, for every person you kill, you must add dead weight to your stash grid. You can place dead weight in any square that corresponds to a square in your link grid for the corporation the person you killed worked for. So that sounds a bit confusing. That's something that we'll put together during character creation. On our character sheets, we actually have 3 different grids. So we have that one that we put our items in. That's our stash.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a hearts grid and a links grid.
Gotcha.
And we'll also be putting Tetris pieces in those, but those won't change from contract to contract. We're going to fill them up at character creation and then leave them.
Okay.
And every grid interacts with every other grid. Your hearts grid holds your personal devotions, and your links grid holds your business relationships.
Okay. I love this because what you're telling me is we're going to create a vault of dead bodies that just kind of follows us around of like, we've killed these people from these corporations. Here's where the bodies are. This is very good.
Yeah. So when you kill somebody, you place dead weight in your stash. So it's going to take up a space where you can't put a gun there. So you can, and the only valid spaces in your stash that you can place dead weight is a space that corresponds to your link grid where your business relationship for their employer was.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay.
And having that dead weight in your stash, it makes you less effective. You can't hold as many guns. It represents like holding on to the like weight of the guilt of having to murder your peers. But of course, you can get that weight removed again by the corpsman, who can slice it out of your brain. But to do that, to have the guilt sliced out of your brain, you lose a personal devotion from your heart's grid that's in the same place as the dead weight.
Oh,
This is so
no.
cool. This
Thank
is
you.
so cool. Like the layering of everything, like and just the immediate, like it makes everything so much more tangible. And I think that's sick as hell.
Thank you. Yeah, so assets can't be stored in the squares taken up by dead weight. If you place it in a square that is occupied by an asset, the asset immediately breaks. You can clear half its squares and have the dead weight there. If there are no other valid squares, you can place it in a square occupied by a broken asset, erasing the square to fit it in. But if you do that, you can't repair that asset with a repair kit, which is something you can buy from the catalog. And if there are no valid squares left at all, you lose 1 soul instead of marking dead weight. So your soul isn't actually on your character sheet. You have to just keep track of it. It's this like ephemeral currency essentially that you have. You have 36 soul. You lose it by either doing this, killing someone when there's absolutely no space left in your inventory, or you can lose some if your resurrection goes badly. You can lose some if you need to cut a piece of your memory out, but you don't have a personal devotion left to get rid of. And you only have 36 soul for your character's whole life. and once it's gone, it's gone. There's no way to replenish it.
Oh man.
No. Oh no.
Keegan just like was like, I'll be fine. I can spend some soul. Who cares?
So yeah, the penalty of trauma can be steep, but killing people greatly increases your payout if you turn in an objective key and earn disbursement for the contract. Some knights would say it's the only thing that makes the job genuinely profitable. And besides, the corpsman can take care of the weight you're carrying around on your conscience for a price. So yeah.
I feel like there's an opinion here about corporate.
Yeah?
I don't know if I can put a finger on it.
I don't know if I can detect some undertones.
Yeah. It's a little subtle. And then we have the progress track, which is one of the tools that helps the game run without a GM. You still use it if you play with a GM, but it's just sort of like a helpful tool that helps it run smoothly either way. The progress track will keep track of your position as you take tasks, moving up into more advantageous territory as you take on more risk, and down into danger as you hold back. So that is why you're allowed to choose on every task how risky it is.
Okay.
Because as you take the like 3 cost tasks, you get put in a better position. As you take the 1 cost task, you get put in a worse position on the progress track.
Right.
So
you can save your stuff, but you're gonna be in a crappy position, or you can just go buck wild and have all the win. I see that. Okay, sick.
So yeah, the progress track
real
runs. It runs from -10 to +10, so you don't have to keep track of it, but outside of like an insane range. And your squad will start every contract at 0, and you move along the track as a squad, not individually. So you move up the track when you take a 3 cost task or when you roll a choke die. So again, we'll talk about choke dice, but they make it more likely for you to break your stuff. So you voluntarily using one puts you in a better position. You move down the track once when you take a 1 cost task. When you gain a choke die that you don't use. And when a choke die rolls a break, but all assets in the task already broke, you move down the track instead. And I believe choke dice are the next thing.
They are.
So yeah, on spread 47, 48, this is all the like. So like I said, that last spread was like the big mechanic, and then this next page is like the
everything
little pieces that plug into it. Yeah.
If you want to take a break from reading, feel free to just assign us reading.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so choke dice are the next thing that as we've been talking about. They're accrued through various means during a contract. Having a pool of choke dice available reduces your position on the progress track, because every time you get one, you move down the progress track.
Right.
The pool of choke dice belongs to the squad collectively, not to any individual knight. And to use up choke dice, the acting knight or any of their squad mates can okay, so I forgot that I wrote it this way. It's not just when you're doing a task, you can choose to add a choke die. It's any of your squad mates can throw one in on your task.
This is very good.
Oh,
this is very good. I love
Sarah
this.
and I are gonna kill each other.
Yeah, no, 100% we're not gonna make it, Keegan. I love you, man, but it's not gonna happen for us.
I totally forgot that was the rule.
It's gonna be let me explain to you. I can see this game already. Like, it's gonna be Sammy carrying the team on her shoulders as she just absolutely decimates every single fulcrum. And it's gonna be me and Keegan throwing grenades at each other, like between her actually effective tasks, and just being like, "Heh, suck on this." Like, that's what this crew is, and I'm already obsessed. Like, this is very good.
God. So yeah, so on when anybody's doing a task, anyone can pull one of the choke dice out of the pool and throw it in there. So choke dice are D4s, and if a choke die rolls a 1 or a 2, the acting player chooses one of their assets that didn't break, and it does break.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
basically, it just increases your odds of breaking stuff.
Yeah, but you at least get to choose what you break when it
You
when
get to
it
choose
rolls.
what you breaks, and when you roll it, you get to move up on the progress bar
Yes.
as well. So
Yes.
it's okay. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, because you'll be forced to put choke dice in the pool,
Right.
which moves you down. So then you have to
You
get
want
rid
to
of them
burn
if you want
them.
to move
Right.
back up. Yeah.
You want to burn them.
And then there's loot. So loot can be accrued through various means during a contract. We talked about the fact that anytime an item breaks, you can take one loot if you want. It takes up space in your stash grid like assets, but they don't have a Tetris piece. They don't have to be contiguous. You can just stick them anywhere in your stash grid. If you make it out of contract alive, you can dump your loot for cash, $100 per square. But in a pinch, it can also be used instead of risking an asset. So anytime you would risk an asset, you can instead dump 6 of your loot.
Okay.
So just like not roll anything, just I have 6 squares of loot. I'm erasing all of them because I don't want to risk an asset. Okay, and then there's rooms. So throughout a contract, you'll move around your target's facility, maintaining control of areas, dodging security protocols, searching for your quarry, and kiting enemy knights. The longer you stay in one place, the less effective your squad becomes. A room is a given area in the facility, somewhere that you can point to on a map. So that's why we talk about having a map. So it could be a literal room, it could be a building, it could be a floor of a building, or it could just be like this spot, like this mining pit or something could be
Yeah,
one
this
room.
like section of the
Yeah.
of the overworld.
Yeah, it's just a place you can point to. The squad is always considered to be in the same room, even if they split up. So it's basically it's
Gotcha.
the physical
I
location
love that.
that most of your squad's energy is being focused towards.
Right.
Each subsequent task that you take without changing rooms gets a -1 damage modifier to a minimum of 0. So we talked about how tasks always do 5 damage to the fulcrum. So 5 damage to the fulcrum. If you don't leave the room after that, the next task is 4 damage.
4.
The next one is
Okay.
3 damage, all the way down to 0. After any task, though, the acting knight can decide to change rooms. When you change rooms, the squad moves up or down their target's ladder by the lowest die roll in the task. So we just like take one of the dice in the task and have it do double duty on another mechanic
Gotcha.
instead of like rolling its own die. So if the progress track is currently in the negatives, if our progress track is anywhere below 0, we move down the ladder when we change rooms, which is moving into bad effects. If the progress track is in the positives, we move up the ladder. And if it's at 0, we move back into the spot we're already at on the ladder.
Okay.
So what is the ladder? The ladder is a type of table used to add dynamic effects and additional mechanics to a contract based on the target of the contract and the actions of the knights. The more costly tasks the knights take, the more often they'll be moving up the ladder to a better position that benefits them going forward. The less they risk, the more often they'll be moving down the ladder to increasingly dangerous and unpredictable rungs. The squad moves on the ladder as a single unit. When you land on a rung, do what it says. Whenever you deal damage, modify it by the damage modifier of the last rung landed on to a minimum of 0. If we want to see what this looks like, if you go to the spread 5152, you can see a ladder here. It's this big table that has 12 entries on the table. You can see rung 1 to rung 12. And then there's a smaller ladder below it that says pocket. So that's a pocket ladder that runs from 1 to 5. And we'll discuss what that means. But on the basic ladder, you start on rung 6. You can see it's highlighted. The damage modifier when you're there is +0. If we were to move up to rung 5, anytime we did damage, if that was the last rung we were on, we would add 1 to the damage.
Okay.
And when we first land on a rung, we do what it says. So in this instance, rung 5 says threat, so we would deploy a threat, which I'll talk about what that means.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But we would do so if on rung 5 we would do 6 damage instead of the base 5.
Yes.
Got it.
This is how we hit 15.
I was gonna say, Sammy, we gotta get up them rungs. We gotta work our way up that ladder, yo. Also, corporate ladder, very good. I see it. It's great.
I missed it.
Keegan.
I was busy thinking about Fortnite.
And then it's like a clarification on movement on the ladder is the last thing there, that if you're on the top rung and you move up from the top rung, you reset to that upper highlight, the green highlight.
Okay.
And if you're on the bottom and you have to move down, you reset to the red highlight, the bottom highlight.
Okay.
Can I ask what pocket rungs are?
Yes, yeah, we can jump right to that.
You can say we'll get to it later, and it's not a problem.
In my mind, it's literally we just pull a rung out of our pockets and we're like, screw this, we're doing it our way.
So if you're still looking at the ladder on page 52, you can see rung 9 says drop. So a drop condition tells you when you leave this ladder, when you leave this rung, when you move from rung 9, if you satisfy the drop condition, you don't move to rung 10 or to rung 8. You move to the pocket ladder.
Gotcha.
You drop to the pocket ladder, and the pocket ladder represents a like a special sub area of the corporate facility, which has its own little special effects. You can see the pocket for Meridian's thing is subterranean track, and its pocket effect is all new threats deployed start with 1 graduation if possible. So yeah, so that's pocket ladders. And then there's leverage. So leverage can be spent when moving on the ladder 1 for 1 to adjust your movement in either direction to a minimum of 0 movement. So in other words, if you're supposed to be moving up, you can if you're supposed to move up 2, you can spend 2 leverage to not move at all, but you can't spend 3 leverage to go down. Like you can't reverse the movement that you're supposed to go.
Right.
Leverage is tracked individually on a per night basis, and the acting knight who decided to change rooms can only spend their own leverage unless their squad mates volunteer some.
Okay.
So we talked about what it means if a rung says drop. So when you land on the drop spot on that table, you don't do anything, and it's just if you satisfy the condition when you leave it, that's when you might drop to the pocket ladder if you satisfy the condition. If a rung says threat, you choose one of the ladder's threats to deploy. So back on page 51, we can see that the Meridian Rail Transport and Transit Concern has 3 threats: the bottomless engine on endless track, which is a roaring locomotive pursues you, screaming smoke and fire. They have acrid coal smoke, which is your lungs and eyes burn as you gasp for a clean breath. And they have train top duel. You find yourself with an adversary ahead and nowhere to run. So if we land on rung 5 or rung 7, or pocket rung 3, we would choose one of those threats to deploy. If you land on another threat rung while a threat is already active, the active threat has unused graduations, graduate that threat once instead of deploying another threat.
Okay.
So you can see that the bottomless engine on endless track has a graduation that just makes its effect worse. Sometimes threats will have graduations to make them last longer or make them harder to dispatch, different stuff like
Right.
Yeah. Well, fist fight on top of a train has been a long time goal of mine, so that sounds like a
Oh
win.
yeah.
We're gunning for it.
Whenever a threat is deployed, mark it off the list, and then when they've all been marked, unmark them all. So you don't want to
Okay.
do the same one twice in a row.
Right.
If a threat has an overcome number, that's the amount of damage the threat must take before its effect ends.
Okay.
So if you remember, every time you do a task, you're dealing damage to a fulcrum. If there's an active threat, you can divert however much of that damage you want to the threat instead. So
Okay.
if you're dealing 5 damage, but there's a train chasing you, you can be like, okay, I'm putting 3 of that damage towards the train and 2 of it towards the fulcrum,
This is
or I'm
very
putting it
good.
all towards the train.
I'd like this the cinematic nature that this already creates. Like every scene is like you have the goal, you have the mission, but you're distracted by like the top of the train, or I was like kind of like what is this, a parts conveyor? Very cool. Like it makes it
Thank
feel
you.
like that, like when you're a kid and you're watching those crappy action movies and like somebody's like stuck on the sawmill, but they're like fighting everywhere else. Like that's what this paints that picture for me.
Well, we'll get to the sawmill in a little
Yes.
bit. If you want to talk about that. So yeah, if it doesn't, so yeah, threats without overcome numbers either deal their effects immediately. It's just like a one-time thing,
Right.
or they deal their effect until some other condition is met per their description. So the Meridian threats, Bottomless Engine has an overcome of 10, so it needs to take 10 damage. But
Right.
Acrid Coal Smoke does not have an overcome. It just has effect for the next 5 tasks. So
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And then we talked about pocket ladders. So when you drop into a pocket ladder, you move up and down it as normal. You remain in the pocket for the remainder of the contract unless a rung effect says otherwise. Every pocket ladder has a pocket effect, which is a special rule that always applies as long as you remain in the pocket. And so again, when it talks about landing on a rung or being in the pocket, stuff like that, you can imagine that we have like a little game piece that's moving up and down this table and like staying on
Right.
an entry until we move again to a different entry.
Mm-hmm.
And then last part of ladders are the motifs, which are actually the first thing that's on their page. Motifs are lists of features, locations, or visuals that might appear in the facility of your chosen target. Use them as inspiration as you tell the story of the contract. So those are just like aesthetic notes. So the Meridian Rail Transport and Transit Concern has motifs: loading and unloading platforms, turnstiles and ticket machines, endless crisscrossing track, the rooftops of trains, a car for passengers, a car for dining, a car filled with all manner of eerie and haunted thing, a car filled with weapons and ammunition, a car filled with sensitive documents and files. So their motif list is very focused on like different things that a train can carry,
Right.
whereas other corporations have different like themes to their motif lists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
again,
so, yeah,
the
so
art is phenomenal. Like all
thank
the
you.
little baddies paired with each of these corporations, like the Python guys in particular, obsessed. Like these are
Thank
very
you.
cool.
I do want to shout out that the outfits that most of the enemy characters wear were designed by my fiance Sawyer. You can see on the credit page at the front that he's credited with additional character design. So that's what those were. Most of
Amazing.
these outfits for the enemies were designed by him.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So yeah, so that covers all of the mechanics like within a contract.
Okay.
So I guess I'll talk a little bit about what we do at the end of a contract and before a contract, the stuff on both ends and in
Okay.
between and everything.
Cool.
Perfect.
So page 49 and 50 cover the keys that I was talking about. So whenever you kill a fulcrum, you get 1 gain, and you can spend those gains on keys, and the keys have different costs or different conditions for spending a gain on them. So when you make it out of a contract alive, you immediately convert any gains you earned as a squad into keys. Any 3 gains can be exchanged for 1 objective key. You cannot earn more than 1 objective key per contract. And the objective key is what you turn into Sullivan to mark a contract as a success and receive disbursement. Any 2 gains can be exchanged for 1 skeleton key. So this is what I was talking about, where even if you bail on a contract before you finish it, maybe you got enough to get something out of it for the future. So a skeleton key is a meta currency that can be used to kill any fulcrum immediately. So
Wow.
if you have a skeleton key that you bought with the gains from your last contract, you can use it to make your next contract easier. Any 1 gain can be exchanged for a breach key, but you can only earn as many breach keys as bounties you accepted on this contract. So again, this is the thing where if this is primarily for if you get too far in debt where you can't pay it off, you can get one of Sullivan's competitors to agree to pay it off for you. They'll just ask you to do a side job while you're on a contract. And then, so if you accepted a side job at the top of the contract, and then you have an extra gain, you can exchange it for a breach key. Sorry, am I the only one who's having video issues?
Yeah, you glitched a little bit, but you're okay now.
Okay.
Your
cool.
audio's coming through clear, so you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you get these breach keys for doing bounties, but you don't get your debt paid off right away. There's still another step you have to take that these competitor corporations will ask you to do. So they give you a breach key, which is a meta currency that can be used to initiate a treason run, which is a treasonous contract against Sullivan Allworks itself.
Oh, wow.
And if you use a breach key let me skip right to the explanation of those, because I think it's good to plug that in. Page 5960. This ties into the like built-in campaign progression that the game has, which we probably won't get into because we're only doing a one-off, but I think it's cool to like think about still. So the reward for turning in a completed bounty is a breach key, which allows the squad to attempt 1 treason run against the corporate campus of Sullivan Allworks itself. A treason run is a special kind of contract that you secretly undertake on behalf of one of Sullivan's corporate rivals in hopes of having them clear the debt of your whole squad. A breach key represents the alibi, disguises, forged credentials, and/or distractions granted to you by your patron to allow you to run an op against your own employer without being immediately fired and arrested. So you spend one of these breach keys that you get for already doing a side job for a competitor to directly run an op against your own employer, and only then will the rival corporation pay off the debt of your squad. But it's very possible to get so far in debt that you need this to happen. The other thing about debt is that debt takes up space in your stash grid too.
Oh no!
So that's what limits you from going too far into debt. And then there's a little bit more explanation of treason runs, which you don't need to get into. But there's a 5th ladder. So there's four base ladders. There's 4 like sections of the main Sullivan corporate campus. They're each like focused on a different enterprise, and they lead to each other. Like you have to progress through each one to get to the next. But there's a 5th ladder in a treason run that is not associated with any treasonous bounties: the Sullivan Allworks penthouse office. If you could make your way through all of the security systems, the deadly machines, the other Sullivan knights, and find yourself face to face with Arthur Sullivan in that office, maybe you could make your dreams come true. And this is a
Ooh.
reference to the stuff flavor text at the beginning of the book that says, "Your dreams are warm and red. A bullet rips through rib and lung. A blade cleaves through neck and spine. You dream of choking on blood. Most nights, it's your body being fed to the machine. But on good nights, it's Arthur fucking Sullivan's." So that's how you end a campaign of this game.
You get him.
Yeah, you build up enough resources that you can make it through all 5 ladders of the Sullivan campus with enough breach keys to get in and everything, get all the way through it in one run. And those ladders have like the most brutal entries on every rung.
Yeah, I'm looking through one of them, and it was just break all meat and kill all players.
Yeah.
The end of one of the rungs. So oof.
So yeah, that's if you can make it all the way through and get in the room with Arthur Sullivan, you can just choose to kill him, and that's the end of the campaign.
That's amazing.
But Keegan actually brings up a good point about TPKs. So the bottom rung on every ladder, not just these treason ones, is a TPK.
Wow.
So the way that works is that for these treason ladders, you have no options. If you hit that rung, all knights break, all meet, and die. Your whole squad is killed, and nobody's going to resurrect you because you were, doing a treason run.
Yeah, you were doing it bad.
Yeah. On the regular ladders, the rung number 12, it gives you an option. So TBK, either end the contract immediately, so forced get out. You if you haven't gotten all the gains you need, you have to leave. It's going to be a failed contract. Or all knights break, all meet, and die, but consider the contract canceled. It doesn't count towards your failed record of contracts for the purposes of future disbursements and firing. So that brings us to the disbursements and firing mechanic, which is back on the 4950 spread. When you spend an objective key to successfully turn in a completed contract to Sullivan Allworks, each knight in the squad receives disbursement. Disbursement begins at $2,000, but can be modified by several factors. If you're on a streak of successful contracts, take a stacking times 1.25 modifier for each success before this one. If you're on a streak of failed contracts, take a stacking 0.75 modifier for each failure before this. And take a stacking times 2 modifier for every person you killed during the contract.
Wow.
Oh God.
So that's what we talked about, where killing people, it has a potentially permanent downside for your character, but it pays really well.
Right. Like sure, you might have to get your brain chopped up, but that plus that 2 times modifier though.
Yeah. If you ever return from 3 contracts in a row or 10 total where you fail to turn in an objective key, you are fired from Sullivan Allworks. So that's what that TPK option is. It's either GTFO, turn in a failed contract, it goes on your permanent record, you get closer to being fired, or you all die and Sullivan writes off that contract. And then you all have to pay for a resurrection, but at least you're not fired.
How grim.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So if you are fired from Sullivan Allworks, you can no longer play as your knight in Choke. It's a game about knights working under the thumb of Arthur Sullivan, dreaming of one day blowing his head off. Consider continuing the story of your knight in a game about freelance mercenaries seeking revenge against the corporation that wronged them, or people trying to survive in a world that no longer values them for their capacity to kill and be killed. Or just make a new knight whose reputation isn't so sullied just yet. Sullivan always needs new hires.
This is awesome. I'm so excited to dive in and start making characters.
Thank you.
But
There's
oh, go for it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just
You're
wanted
good.
to say that there's sort of one more section that dovetails nicely into. That's like pre or post contracts that I want to talk about,
Gotcha.
and that is surgery, because that ties
Oh
into
man. Yeah.
dying, getting hurt on the contract, all that stuff. So that is spread 3738.
Okay.
Um, and on page 36, you can see one of my favorite pieces of spot art is Sullivan's Corpsman.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rock.
Amazing.
So surgery starts with a $300 appointment fee to see the corpsman. Um, Regardless of how many surgeries you undergo, you don't have to pay the fee again until after your next contract. So that's nice, at least. Um, we'll talk about some of these at character creation. The very first thing is implantation, which this is the one significant errata in the game that got through editing. Unfortunately, you can see I accidentally repeated that first paragraph under implantation. um
Mm.
I, obviously it's not supposed to say that. It's just supposed to say like implant a pharmacon in one of your meat.
Okay.
Mm.
But it's not too bad. It's correct in the plain text version of the PDF. So that's
Gotcha.
that's the one major errata that I'm aware of. But yeah. uh all that stuff, implantation, steroid injection, and blood transfusion are things that you would do before a contract to like buff yourself up. So we'll talk about that when we create characters. But the rest of these are healing procedures. So there's the consciencectomy, which is remove dead weight by having part of your conscience cut away. So you choose one of your hearts, which again are your personal
Mm-hmm.
devotions that are in one of the grids of your character sheet, and you remove it, erasing it from your heart grid, and then all dead weight that was in the corresponding squares of your stash grid also gets erased.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then pay $150 times the size of the excised heart. So if the heart was
Okay.
6 squares, you pay 6 times 150. If it was 4 squares, you only pay 4 times
Right.
150. So yeah, but you're paying for the size of the excised heart, not for how many dead weight it removed.
Right.
So you might want to like wait to do it until you've got a lot of dead weight in that area.
Right.
Um, the operation has left you free of the guilt of your murders at the cost of your connection to that thing you loved and cared about. At least the corpsman tells you it's the operation that did it, and you tell yourself to believe it.
Oh, my heart. No.
To remove dead weight in a grid square that doesn't correspond to any heart you have left, choose a 2x2 square area and excise all dead weight within it, as long as it doesn't correspond to a heart. Pay $500 and also lose 4
Holy
soul.
shit.
So,
4 soul?
yep.
Yikes.
For 4 squares of potential dead weight removed, 4 soul, you have 36 soul for your
Yeah.
entire campaign. You can see in the corner here we have the section on your soul. Your soul is cut away in bits and pieces by the corpsman to keep your body in working order for Sullivan. If you ever run out of soul, you can no longer play as your knight and choke. It's a game about knights struggling to keep hold of their lives and their souls throughout the course of their deleterious careers.
Good word.
Consider continuing the story of your knight in a game about soulless knights struggling to regain their lost humanity. Or just make a new knight who hasn't lost quite so much just yet. Sullivan always needs new hires. Despite no longer being playable, your soulless knight probably still works for Sullivan, at least for now. They're likely even still on your squad. During contracts, they're always just off camera, carrying out the most unsavory parts of an already unsavory job with a horrifyingly detached
Oh,
ruthlessness. You
oh
shouldn't dwell on it.
no. Oh no.
And
That's
there's my
However,
friend,
so
just off
cool.
camera, doing
thank
some
you.
murder.
Doing some
However,
real horrid murder.
the remainder of their career is unlikely to be long nor particularly successful. After all, Sullivan needs workers who have something left to lose in order to maintain his control over them.
The like the mindless worker bee murder machines that are just off camera. Are you kidding me? This is so cool.
Thank you. I really like. I think I came up with that late in writing this game, and I really like that.
What were you just kind of sitting there being like, so what happens when you lose all your soul? Like, what was
It
the
it probably was, yeah. Because I knew that I wanted to have a couple of these little sections in the game where it says, when you run into this eventuality, consider playing a different game. So,
right,
if something happens to your character where the mechanics of this game just don't make sense for them anymore, so they get
right,
fired or they lose all their soul, take them into a new game, because I really
right.
like doing that kind of thing. And when
Yeah,
games suggest doing that kind of thing, I stole that from The Brightest Things We Know by Briar Sovereign. It says that like that's like it's like a Destiny inspired Forge in the Dark, and it's like if you lose your like divine superpowers, um you absolutely like there are rules for like playing as a normal guy, but normal guys just like die incredibly
right,
easy in that game.
right.
And so it says like, consider continuing the story of this person who has lost their powers and is now a person in a different game, and I just really
I
like
love
that.
that. That you've now played through your origin story. Uh,
Yeah.
go hop over to another system where it makes sense. That's
and I
awesome.
and I actually did that with the campaign of The Brightest Things We Know that I played with my home group. We transitioned from, we had The Brightest Things We Know. At the end of the like part one of this campaign, all of the characters either died or lost their divinity, and then we transitioned to Beam Saber. So
So
yeah,
cool. So
yeah.
cool.
So that's your soul. Um, that's a way to get a character removed from the game. Um, and then the other healing moves, I guess you would say, are
Mhm.
sutures is to restore broken meat.
Okay.
So again, you start with 3 meat on a contract, and it does not get automatically replenished at any time.
You
Um,
have to get it repaired.
yes.
Okay.
So restore broken meat by undergoing a risky and potentially costly procedure. Um, the mechanic for this is one of my favorite little fiddly dice mechanics I've written, which is called imploding dice or
Oh
reverse
no.
exploding dice.
I just read the
Um,
sentence.
yeah, so with exploding dice, when you hit the highest number, you roll again. With imploding dice, you roll again until you hit the highest number.
Mhm.
So roll 1d6 over and over until you roll a 6. As you roll, keep count of both the number of rolls it takes and the sum total of all of the results that you roll on the die. Pay $15 times the sum total and restore 1 broken meat to operating order.
Oh
Then
man.
choose one option from the chart below based on how many rolls it took. So if I have to roll this die 5
Right.
times, and I count up the total of all the dice, and it's like 20, then I have to
Right.
pay $15 times 20.
20.
And then because I rolled 5 times, I would look at the 5 to 7 outcome of this and
Mhm.
uh, pick one of the options.
Yeah.
Um, So these different categories on the chart, if you only take 1 roll, you get to restore an additional broken meat for free without rolling. So that's a very good one.
Right.
If
Great
all you got to do
success.
is roll a 6, and then it's
It's
fifteen
so
dollars for
easy, but it's
2 repaired.
not.
Yeah, and then 2 to 4, you get like a little extra benefit. Um, like the next time you restore broken meat, you can stop rolling when you roll a 5 or a 6. So
Okay.
that's a pretty big help. Or the next time you restore meat, you can pick from the chart 1 level better than your result. Um, or you can implant 1 pharmacon in the meat you restored for just its catalog price with no implantation fee. So those are all nice little benefits. And then if it takes you a 5 or a 7, you get a fictional consequence. There's no mechanical thing to this. It's just until the
Right.
end of your next contract, you have a physical malady.
Right.
Um, and then top of the next page, if it takes 8 or more rolls, you have to choose one of these. Either you can't implant any pharmacons in this meat until the next time it breaks and is restored, or this meat breaks at the end of your next contract if it hasn't already, or this meat counts as a D2 instead of a D4.
Oof.
Woof. So yeah, it's gonna break when you risk it, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oof.
unless you're somehow using some other utility to make it
Right.
not break.
Right. Wow.
And then lastly, resurrection. So return to life upon being brought to the Corpsman by your fellow knights or by other agents of Sullivan Allworks. Your fellow knights might pay for your procedure or request that your bank account be accessed instead. But either way, there will be a greater cost to pay than cash. Roll 1d6 over and over until you roll a 6. As you roll, keep count of both the number of rolls it takes and the sum total. Again, pay $100 times the sum total and return to life with 1 unbroken meat asset. So you do get 1 meat back for free with resurrection, so that's nice. Then choose 1 option on the chart below based on how many rolls it took. If it only took 1, you don't mark dead weight until the next time you die, so that's nice. Your conscience hasn't fully turned back on.
Right.
If you roll a 2 to 4, you bring a fictional consequence back from
Which
the
are all
grave.
very cool. All very
Thank
cool.
you. If it's 5 to 7, you get a minor mechanical negative. So either you can't implant any pharmacons until the next time you die, or your meat always breaks when risked until the next time you die,
Oof.
or you die at the end of your next contract. And if it takes 8 or more, you either lose one of your remaining hearts from your hearts grid, or lose 6 soul, or lose 6 squares from your stash grid permanently.
Like,
So you do
ow.
not want to take 8 or more rolls when you get resurrected.
Right.
Ideally, you don't want to die
Well,
very often.
yes. I love
Yeah.
like this game feels very like we're going through and we're talking all this stuff and it feels very like haha like that montagey punchy kind of thing, and then we got to this one and it's like, oh no, this hurt, big ow. Like it all of a
Yeah.
sudden like made it feel very like costly to do the things.
Mhm.
And there's consequence to like action, there's rewards and very fun, but like the consequences there, and I think that's very, very cool.
Thank you. I really wanted to have that contrast of,
Right.
you have action movie action, and then what's it like to be the action hero who like killed a bunch of people and like
Right.
took a bunch of injuries, got like shot in the shoulder and stuff, and now you come home and what
Right.
happens in between, and
Right.
it's and you're getting surgery from a doctor who is hired by the corporation you work
Right.
for. So yeah.
You can always risk your meat, but there's a chance that your conscience doesn't boot when you resurrect. Like there's
Yeah.
it's a very, very, the way it all feeds together and fits together feels very nice. Even without playing it, just reading through it, I'm like already like, this is very cool.
Thank you. So I think that's about it. We went through we went through the setting, we went through how a contract works, and then we went through the
Awesome.
stuff that you can do after a contract. So yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. So I feel like this is a good time for us to take a break. And then when
Yeah.
we come back, we can start doing the character creation, which I'm very excited about. Before we do, Sammy Keegan, any questions or comments?
Nothing offhand. I'll think about it over the break. And if you're in the chat and you have questions, feel free to toss them our way during the break.
Yeah. Sammy?
Same answer.
Awesome.
I don't know what the
Okay.
screen light looks like, so I hope I pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think you actually did. Perfect.
That way.
Pro
All
streamer.
right. We're amazing. We'll be back in like 5 to 10 minutes. Get some water, stretch, and we'll be right back. And oh, you were muted.
Oh, man.
But I got
We're
the
back.
at the end, so we're good.
Yeah.
Give it another take.
Oh, yeah, we
We're
can try
back.
again.
I'll cut it to there in the YouTube video of it later.
There you go. There you go.
I
We
won't
are
remember
back.
that.
It's okay. I won't remind you. We're back. We're learning how to play Choke with the Incredible Clove. And we're joined by Sammy as our other player. And we're very excited. Before we jump into the character creation, we wanted to go ahead and talk about some of the content within Choke and give people a heads up of what they can expect when they're building their own characters. Clove, I'll pass it back over to you to talk about that.
Thank you. So yeah, we've already touched on some of these themes, of course, but we are going to be getting more into detail about the different guns and other ways of killing people that our characters will have. So in general, I put on the store page that Choke carries content warnings for like lethal violence and other potentially disturbing content. I've got a very detailed content warning on the first page of the game. Just if anybody has any very specific triggers or anything. So I've written here that Choke carries content warnings for blood, meat, guns, knives, chemical and pathogenic weapons, other weapons, poisoning, suffocation, strangulation, immolation, electrocution, injury from machinery, lethal violence, grievous bodily harm, economic exploitation, surgery, body modification, mental illness, memory loss and modification, medical malpractice, drug use and abuse, and other potentially disturbing content. So, of course, take time before you play to gauge your group's comfort with these topics being referenced or seen in detail during play, and be willing to stop and adjust at any point later on if anyone is uncomfortable. Everyone's comfort and safety is more important than the inclusion of any of these elements, and the use of safety tools is strongly encouraged.
Awesome. All
Sick.
right.
Yeah, well,
What?
with that, let's dive into making characters.
All right. So we've already got a pretty good idea of like the kind of character that the kind of person that your characters are. Um, Again, your corporate knights, which is a specific legal designation within the setting. I realized we talked about killing Arthur Sullivan, but I had skimmed over his actual character introduction on page 5 and 6. If you want to see what he looks like and everything. Um, and it talks about how Sullivan lobbyists greased the wheels of the political bureaucracy to make sure that appropriately licensed, privately hired defenders of company property were given a wide berth in their use of force and in the deployment of corporate espionage and sabotage against their competitors. You might think Sullivan would worry that giving this power to his corporate rivals would endanger his own capital holdings, but when you're the biggest player in town, you hold the biggest gun, and Sullivan Allworks always makes sure it stays on the right end of the barrel. Besides, if Sullivan hadn't done it, someone else would have surely stumbled upon the practice independently, molding it to a shape better suiting their own interests. After all, it can't be illegal to defend one's own capital. What would this country stand for?
Love it.
And we have then that our characters, the Knights of Sullivan Allworks, are outfitted with a varied and reliable array of standard weapons and gear, and are often given access to the catalogs of several competitors as well. If Sullivan is going to point a gun at you, you may as well have at least sold them the bullets. So, our first choice when it comes to character creation, the main thing that will like build the mechanical bulk of your character starts on page 12, and that's the fact that your character is one of 3 types, and that type corresponds to a signature weapons catalog that you sign with Sullivan. So,
Gotcha.
signature catalogs. In addition to keeping their own in-house catalog of arms, Sullivan Allworks brokers third-party arms deals between their knights and their competitors' weapons departments. Your character will gear up for contracts by buying items from catalogs that they have an active account with. In order to optimize productivity, when Sullivan hired you, you signed on through one of 3 arrangement types. These types are given access to separate catalogs from Sullivan and from each company they deal with. This arrangement theoretically increases efficiency by specializing each knight in a discrete set of combat specialities and responsibilities. A type's signature catalog is the third-party arms account they are granted immediately upon hiring. You'll need to pay to open an account with any of the other corporations whose ordnance you're eyeing. The 3 types of Sullivan Knights are Bandit, Artillery, and Snake. And so that is our big
Snake!
so that is our big like character class choice. You can see them on page 13 and 14.
Great.
Okay.
Well, what are we thinking, crew?
I'm gonna
Well-
let Sammy tell us. I think we already know.
Can you
I think
guess?
it's Snake for sure. You seem sneaky. You don't want to punch people. So you're Bandit.
100%. I was actually eyeing up artillery because when I play tabletops, I have a type, and it's 2 biceps, 2 brain cells. That's it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. Keegan, what are you thinking?
I was thinking Snake.
100% you
being
were.
Snaky.
Yeah. So I'll go with Bandit. I like the Bandit.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to double up anyway, so I'm gonna also go with Bandit because that's my favorite. Because
yeah.
I was a scout main in TF2, so
There you go.
Okay.
yes. So on your character sheet, on the little ID card up in the top corner where it says type, you just write that type. So
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
And I'm just gonna show the character sheet to chat here really quick so they can see what that looks like.
I am of course a big fan of doing these maximalist cluttercore character sheets. Which I know in some circumstances is not the most usable thing, but I like them. So
No, they're wonderful. I've
thank you.
already lined everything up on Affinity Publisher.
Oh, sick.
Shout out, please pay me. Yeah, and then I'm filling Sarah. I'm filling your character sheet
You're
out
the
as we go
best.
through the
I
process.
am still taking notes and I'm very excited. Okay.
Okay.
So we have our squad of
so-
murder humans.
So on to page 15 and 16. You can address these steps in any order you want, but starting simple, you have a name. What is it that people call out to get your attention? What do they print at the top of your final notices? You also have a set of pronouns, give or take.
Okay, go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask. NM's name, PR's pronouns is HT height.
Yeah, height, eye color, hair color.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah, height, eye color, hair color, and identifying details, which are all things that they're listed at the top of page 15 as we go through them. They're in the same order. So
Got you.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll with my name is Jace, Jayce. Pronouns are she, her. And then I'll figure out the rest of that stuff later.
Perfect.
I already had my name prepared. It's from I've got in my notes app. Sometimes I just write down like NPC names or stuff for tabletop games. So my character's name is Vacancy Porter. First
Oh
name
my gosh.
Vacancy, surname Porter.
This is very good.
Yeah, that rocks.
What are the pronouns?
I'm gonna say Vacancy uses he, him, but then also uses a neo pronoun, which will be sills, CIL, and then add an S to the end of that for the possessive ones.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect. I'm going to go with, and I could not come up with a character name immediately, so I opened Eclipse Phase and found the first name I could, because it was the nearest book I had on hand, and I'm Pivo. They, them. Evo in Eclipse Phase, as you would all know, is one of the default characters you can play as, and they're an octopus.
Oh.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, that actually reminds me that I should mention that. So like, like I said, this is like sort of the real world. It's got some like alternate history with like where these like corporations came from and stuff. But you've noticed that through the book, the illustrations, the spot illustrations of the characters, some of them are just like animal people or furries. There's no lore behind that or anything. I just think it makes it more fun to visually design different characters. So feel free to be an animal person or something if you want to.
Yeah,
Just throwing that out there.
I'm fully feeling like an octopus now.
Phenomenal. And Sammy?
I couldn't think of a name either, so I went on a cyberpunk name generator.
Perfect.
So I am M-E-M, and last name is Lattes, but everybody else pronounces it late, and she has stopped trying to correct people to pronounce it correctly.
This is so good. And then pronouns?
She, they.
Perfect.
So after you have your name and pronouns, it says, for identification purposes, please also list your height, eye color, and hair color. Feel free to attach a portrait or any other distinguishing features such as dental records, fingerprints, etc. that might aid in the identification of your body.
All right. I have done this already, so I'll go first so you all can think. But Pivo is a tall 5'4", purple eyes, completely bald, very octopus-like face. It wasn't always that way, but one time when they came back, it changed.
Oh no. Okay. I'm trying to think through this. Okay. So Jace is absolutely 4'9".
No! How dare you immediately become shorter than me?
To be fair, I wrote it down almost immediately when I knew that I needed a height. Because normally
Okay.
I go for like average height characters. I'm like, no, not today. I'm short. I'm 4'9". Silver eyes, green hair. Any other distinguishing features? I think Jace does have her own name tattooed underneath her left eye, just for like identification purposes. Like you've got dental records and you've got all that stuff too, but and this has earned her the nickname Jace Face, which she's uncertain about.
Nice. I've decided that vacancy is 5 foot even, very pale gray eyes. Sill's hair is black and gray. And identifying details, he's a rat guy. He's a rat person. And I think Sill's tail is kind of like chopped off halfway on, like, just an accident happened or something.
Perfect. And I think, is that all of us or Sammy?
We need Sammy, yeah.
Yep. So everybody else went short. I went the opposite way. I went
Yes!
went a little bit taller than my IRL height, and M is 6'5". Brown eyes and hot pink hair.
Amazing.
Yep. For identifying markers, she has pistons tattooed on her forearms.
Ooh.
This is very cool.
The machine.
I just love this, like, the picture. Again, like, it's making it even better. It's just gonna be tall Amazonian M, like, towering over the battlefield, doing all this cool stuff, while these two little short idiots try to blow each other up.
Taking the kids to daycare.
And I feel like vacancy the whole time's gonna be like, what? I've got this, but you guys need to cool it. Like,
All right. Next, You have a bank account containing a signing bonus of $500. This is the sum total of your assets. You'll begin draining it shortly. So on account balance underneath your ID card, start with 500, but that will change as we continue.
Got
What is
it.
happening? My pen isn't writing. Did it die?
That's the worst.
Okay. And then we already talked about types, bandit, artillery, or snake. And then you have 3 meat assets, each a measure of your relatively good bodily health. They're each a D4 asset, and they take up no space in your stash grid. So if you look above the ID card, you can see the row of meat icons. And so for your 3 unbroken meat that you start for, you can fill in the D4 bubble. So that's the
Gotcha.
triangle, because it's the
Mhm.
shape of a D4.
Oh, gorgeous. Move over to designer persona. I got this.
All right. Next, you care about things outside of work. These private passions and commitments are of note to Sullivan only insofar as they provide sufficient motivation to perform a job well done, and not so much as to distract you during working hours. Regardless, they're important to you. They keep you company throughout the day and keep your soul from burning so harshly in the acidic blood of the peers you murder. Keep 6 of these cares close. They are now your hearts. Your hearts are a family member who, a person who, a memory, what, a place, where, a work of art, what, and a thing, what. And so on your character sheet, you've got your hearts grid. Underneath, you've got 6 lines, and you'll fill those in with an answer to each of those questions. These are all of this is on page 1516.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we'll start by figuring out what each of those are, and then we're going to assign them values and fit them into the grid after we write down what they are.
Okay, cool. Do we want to just one at a time go through these, just so everybody has a little bit of time to think about what's coming next?
Sure. So the first one is a family member who.
Perfect. I'll go first. I think my family member is going to be my family member is going to be my dog. 100%.
That's so good. What's the dog's name?
Oh God, I was about to use my own dog's name, and then I was like, no.
Too real. Too
Yeah.
real.
And then I was like, what was my first dog's name? And I was like, Sammy, and I was like, can't use that either.
I mean, you can. I'm sure it won't get confusing at all.
No, it's fine. Their name's Scruff,
Oh,
the dog. Cool.
Last name McGruff.
Yeah, I figured that was, just
Just implied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've decided that Vacancy has an aunt, Aunt Ethel, who he
Very good.
like sort of like takes care of a little bit, like has to cut a chunk out of the paycheck every time to help Aunt Ethel out because she's getting up in years and all that.
This is good. I'll go really quick. Jace has a sister, Lila. They are typical sisters. They're either really happy to be together or they're really not happy to be together. But they're all each other has, so it's this kind of constant, tumultuous relationship.
So I just want to point it out. I wrote down sister as well.
Amazing. I love it.
Obviously a different sister though. This sister is named Dot.
I love it.
Cool.
Next, we've got a person who.
So these are people we care about.
Yeah, Keegan. This is a person that you care about.
I'm vamping.
I've got one for me. For Jace, it's her tattoo artist, Watson Spike, because she doesn't trust anybody else to do a good job.
I've got vacancy is good friends with a bagel shop owner on Sill Street. The name of the bagel shop owner is Cow.
I
Sick.
like this.
Oh God, I was so busy making a better grid.
How could
Didn't
you?
think about it. How dare me? Cool. Person who's important to me. God, I'm very good at this. Jesus, you ever get that thing where you like get
I
like
thought you were saying Jesus.
Jesus is the person who's very important to you.
his name is Jesus. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Aaron's right. It's Bigger Debbie.
There you go.
And yeah, they provide me snack cakes and
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
Actually, that's really sweet. This little octopus man getting their little
Snack
cake
cakes.
treats.
All right.
Sammy, let's hear it.
So I suspect you and I might be the same person because I didn't write tattoo artist, but it was the same reasoning. Don't trust anybody else.
Yes.
So
I
it's
love this.
M's doctor by the name of Sarah.
There you go. I love it.
Sarah, what was your tattoo artist's name?
Watson Spike.
Also, I just
So
realized
good.
I named my doc after you.
I love it. No, it's great. Dr. Sarah is on the case. If it
Yeah,
ever
it's great.
comes, if it's ever like relevant, I'll just hop in and like play the doctor.
It's canon now. It's too late. We
There
said
you
it live
go.
on air.
Yeah, it's legitimately you in real life.
Yes, hello. I'm a doctor. Trust me. I'm a doctor.
Next we have a memory. What?
Okay.
Ooh.
Important memory. Anyone got anything offhand?
Well, I wrote these all down beforehand, so
Oh.
yes.
Yes, hit
Oh,
us with
look
it.
at you. Look at you overachieving over there.
First kicks. Oh my god, I can't read my own writing. First kid. See, this is why I type everything. It's because my penmanship is terrible. Okay, so this says, and I wrote it down. First kiss on the docks, overlooking the floating garbage patch.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna be like, because we're real one note with this, but it would be getting her first tattoo with her sister. It was matching a set. It would absolutely be like a set of keys, like on each, like on their wrists, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think my memory is like a beach day. Probably probably a day on the floating garbage patch now that we know it's there, which we were using as a beach. We don't have to ask about it. I think garbage beach day, and I'll know what that means.
Okay. I don't know what this means or like what the significance of this is yet, but just like something that like sounds good in my head that I'm sure
Mhm.
I'll come to something is it's the memory is the last time that vacancy set foot in a church.
Oh, I love that.
Oh
For
wow.
some reason hasn't since.
I really like that. I like that
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Okay. So number 4, we're doing a place. Where is it? And I'm gonna go first here, and I'm just gonna say the aquarium.
I freaking love aquariums. Mine's kind of the same, like mind space-ish. It would be like an abandoned, destroyed museum where half of the like exhibits are still in place and then others have been kind of vandalized. But I feel like that's the vibe.
Yeah.
I think mine is the roof of his apartment building as like a community space, and it's that.
Sick. And what do you got, Sammy?
The docks for reasons of see above.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Number 5 is a work of art. What is it?
Okay. This one is, so it's going to be a very what's the word? Abstract sculpture piece where like maybe at one point it was like an actual human figure, but it's been, probably drug behind a truck or something and put up somewhere else. And like it's just beaten up and it's crappy and on like it's spray painted on in like really poor penmanship, so you can barely make out that it says you can always risk your meat, like on this like jacked up statue. That's what it is.
That's so good.
I wrote down it's a cake that looks like Jesus because I feel like we need to come back around to it.
Mine is a novel that Vacancy had to read in grade school, and for like some period of time, he like made this novel a large part of his personality. But now like Syl hasn't read it in a long time, and it was when Syl was in grade school.
It's the Catcher in the Rye. I'm following.
Yeah.
I'm being attacked.
And then last, oh sorry, Sammy, I forgot.
Yeah, so it's a poster of a DeLorean on a neon grid, like a neon purple grid with sound waves in the form of mountains in the background, also in neon purple.
So
I love it. This is very good.
I'm choosing to believe it's one of those like UV glow in the dark posters.
Yes.
100%.
The last one is a thing. What? And you can interpret that as meaning a thing as in an object or a thing as in literally anything. Like,
right.
Yeah.
This is my go-to whenever I play. This is a Sarah fact. Alert, Sarah fact. Whenever I'm playing a game and I just need a random object in the game, this is what it is every time. It's a left-handed drumstick. Like every time. A left-handed drumstick. It makes no sense, but that's my thing.
I was gonna say, Sarah, drumsticks are the same for. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Well, but what if it had like an ergonomic grip?
Would make a bad drumstick.
That's my thing.
Yeah. I think mine's gonna be a house plant because I'm thinking about the plant currently behind me dying.
Oh no.
Rip.
She's so needy.
Mine's gonna be a wristwatch.
Sick.
Simple.
So M's is just a chunk of iron about yay big. It's just kind of a elongated hexagon.
Ooh.
If anybody gets that reference, I will give you $1. When Canadian dollars, you get like 75 cents.
I've never wanted to get a reference more.
You gotta earn it.
You hard up for cash or?
No, I just like winning things.
Oh yeah, sure.
Keegan's very competitive.
I'm Keegan and I'm competitive. Yeah.
So now that you have 6 hearts, judge your hearts against one another. How much of your soul will you devote to each? Assign them values. 2 of them are worth 8 each. Another 2, 6 each, and the last 2, 4 each.
So 2, 8, 2, 6, 2, 4.
Yep.
Okay. I got this. Scruff the dog, 8 points.
Yeah, 100%.
The aquarium, 8 points. Bigger Debbie, 6 points. Garbage Beach Day, 6 points. The cake that looks like Jesus, 4 points. And my dying houseplant, 4 points.
So my 8s went to family member and the work of art. 6 went to the person, place, and 4 went to the memory and thing.
Sarah, will you send those to me in the chat?
Yeah, I will. I will 100% do this thing for you.
Thank you.
I've got 8 on Aunt Ethel, 8 on The Last Time in a Church, 6 on the bagel shop owner, 6 on the wristwatch, 4 on the apartment roof, and 4 on the grade school novel.
Sick.
So I got the 8s in the memory and a thing. The 6 is a family member and the place. And the 4s are in the work of art and the person, which I feel kind of bad about in hindsight, but
No, I think it's
we've
No,
drifted apart over the years. That's fine.
it's gonna be
It's
okay.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. After our hearts, next you have some semblance of a business network based on your education, social circles, or former employment. The 6 corporations who hold the majority of capital in the region are your links. So your links are Sullivan Allworks, the Meridian Rail Transport and Transit Concern, Eaglehawk Limited, Python Pharmaceuticals, Grendelbane Mill, and the Corporated Credence Syndicate. Assign them values. Sullivan Allworks and the corporation who furnishes your signature catalog are each worth 8. Another 2 are worth 6, and the last 2 are worth 4. So the signature catalog, back where each of these guys was discussed, Meridian furnishes the signature catalog of the Bandit, Eaglehawk does Artillery, and Python does Snake. So whichever one matches your type, that gets an 8. Sullivan gets an 8, and then you get to assign 2 of the others 6 and 2 of the others 4. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Which sheet am I editing right now?
That's a
Not
good
mine.
question.
Got you. Sullivan. 8. Atheon. Also an 8. Nope. It's like I've never used this program before. I'm learning all sorts of things Affinity Publisher can do. Like skewing whole tables instead of moving where a line is.
And just so you know, these choices, in addition to like these being the how much space you have to mark off people from that corporation that you kill, also like which one you give the ones you give 6s to will be a little bit cheaper to buy an account with them, and the ones you give 4s to will be a little more expensive to buy an account with them.
Okay. So for me, because I'm a bandit, my 8 would be Meridian, and then 8 with Sullivan.
Yes.
And then I chose my 6s to be Python and Eaglehawk. And Keegan, I'll send this to you. And then my 4s are the Grendel, Bane Mill, and Corporated Credence Syndicate.
Cool.
Got him. No worries.
You're the best.
Used shorthand, you see.
All right.
Mm-mm-mm.
So I'm also a bandit. So I've got Sullivan and Meridian at 8. I've got Grendelbane and Credence at 6, and I've got Eaglehawk and Python at 4.
All right. I have Sullivan and Python at 8. I have Grindel and Meridian at 6. And that leaves Eaglehawk at 4. And then what's the other corporation? I've been typing this whole time.
So there was Sullivan, Meridian, Eaglehawk, Python, Grendelbane, and Credence.
Credence. That was the one I was missing.
And if you want to know more about any of these corporations, these are pages 7 through 11 have their lore, and then their catalogs will be in the like upcoming pages. But yeah.
Sick. Through it.
So I got my 8s in Sullivan and Eaglehawk. The 6s are in Python, and I should learn how to write better. I'm pretty sure that says Credence.
That feels right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the fours were in the Meridian Rail and Grendelbane.
Perfect.
Nice.
Mhm.
I do just want to take a moment to share that Eaglehawk Limited is an acronym, and Eaglehawk stands for Executive Ammunition, Guns, Lasers, Explosives, Heavy Arms, and Weaponry Collective.
This is
That's
everything.
beautiful, and I could never backronym that hard. That's so
Can I
good.
change? Can I change my piece of art? Can I change it to that acronym?
That acronym for a rival company.
Yeah, it just speaks to me. I
Mhm.
won't, but it's very good.
So, the last thing the character creation says that you have is 36 soul, which, like I said, not on the character sheet. Ephemeral, quantified only by its being cut away.
Yeah.
So many of Choke's rules and mechanics are based on interacting with 3 6x6 grids. These are your Hearts grid, Links grid, and Stash grid. As you're making your character, arrange your hearts into your Hearts grid. Each takes up a number of contiguous squares equal to the value you gave them. Hearts cannot overlap or share squares, and their values add up to 36, which means you'll fill every square in the grid. Do the same with your links in your link grid. All of these grids can be filled without a plan in mind, but the rules that govern how they interact will be explained further on, which we've already gone through. And if anybody has any questions, wants to refresh on that, I'll do that. But it says, for now, the gist is this. All 3 grids can be thought of as superimposed. That is, square C5 on the Hearts grid corresponds to C5 on the Link grid and C5 on the Stash grid, and vice versa. Squares in your Stash grid may become unusable based on the position of your links. As we discussed, that's because if you kill somebody from one of your links, you have to put it in the corresponding space of your Stash. To free these squares back up, you may need to sacrifice hearts from the corresponding squares on your Hearts grid. And we talked about that with the conscience-ectomy. So yeah. So yeah, you fill in the grid with, you can make Tetris pieces in any shape you want. It's just that like each individual thing has to be contiguous. So if you gave your family member an 8, you have to put 8 contiguous squares of any shape, and then like somewhere in the middle of that shape, write what number it is on the list below.
I'm doing them in different colors because I want to overachieve.
That works
This
too.
is excellent. Keegan, I'll send you after this, I'll send you like a mock-up for mine or whatever. Or
Yeah,
you
that's
can just do
perfect.
mine. I don't care.
I was like, I could
trust
also
you.
just do yours. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just do
great.
it.
Oh, wait, no, that's not gonna give me enough space. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can check if you did it right by, like I said, every space will be filled.
And I had not.
Oh no.
This is fun. I like filling out goofy little grids.
Yeah.
Sarah, I'll send you yours in a second, and you can just assign them things
Yay.
later.
I'll throw it in paint and be like, here's my little guy.
Oh, I can make an Among Us.
Oh my god.
Sarah, you're getting a red Among Us?
Okay.
Oh, can I do 2 Among Uses? I totally can.
Do it.
Oh
Do
my
it.
God.
Do it. Do it.
Pretty sure it's pronounced Amogus.
Oh, you know what? You're right. That's on me.
I think the plural is a mogai.
Mm.
I'm just making some wild shapes over here.
Conveniently, one of my things was a shape, so it makes it shockingly easy to
Amazing.
do.
And then that, and perfect. Perfect. Gorgeous. I have filled out both of my character sheets.
You're crushing it. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah, no worries. We're on it. Sarah, here's what yours look like. I don't know if you can do anything with that, but
It's great. Thank you.
cool. And then we do the same thing for links, right?
Yeah, this is what my hearts look like just for an example on the stream. Is that coming through? Am I
Yes.
centered?
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
perfect actually.
Nice. That's just an example. You can see I've numbered them based on the numbers of the list of things below.
Cool. I forgot I had to do a whole second set of grids. Orange. Yellow. I'm being much less precious about the shapes I make this time. There are no Among Uses on this one.
Oh, I understand.
Purple. Those colors read too close to each other. Let's use a different one. Oh yeah, that's better. I needed to add like a hot pink to it. And then, there you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Can I just copy paste it from one sheet to another? Yes, I can because they're unlabeled. Perfect.
Amazing.
Well, I am ready to move on when everybody else is.
I'm almost done
Yeah, no, you're
my
good. You're good.
hearts, and I'll just probably just do my links off stream.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's great. I made this easy by setting up grids on top of everything earlier, so I can just control fill
Nice.
whole sections of it. I do love that I decided to fill this whole sheet out using a handwriting font of my own handwriting, which
I
means the
know.
entire sheet is
Oh, it's your own handwriting? That's
just
cool.
as unreadable as it would be if I filled it out by hand.
It's very good.
I keep like being like backspace. Nope, I click the wrong letter, and then I like retype it and like, nope, that's just my handwriting.
Gosh dang it. Perfect. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get my camera set up correctly before stream, so I can't. Otherwise, I would have been able to show it, but
Right.
I don't
All
want to
good.
ruin
worries.
the overlay by trying to do that live.
No,
Yeah.
all good.
All right. So yeah, and then there's a little note here about the grids. A little pop out that says, your stash grid is a little more fluid. You can fill it or reorganize it each time you gear up for a contract. So that's what we should talk about next, because we've each got $500. We've got credit accounts that we can put debt on. So we should talk about how to do that, and then what equipment we'll be taking into our contract for next stream.
Amazing.
So yeah. So pages 17, 18 are about the buying mechanics. So whenever your knights are not fulfilling a contract, you can prep and recover, buying assets like guns and paraphernalia and accessories like bullets and pharmacons from your available catalogs. You can also take out new accounts with catalogs you don't have access to yet. You can rearrange your stash grid, and you can undergo surgery in any order. You can also clear broken assets from your stash grid and exchange loot in your stash grid for cash. Each square of loot you make it out of a contract with is worth $100. Guns and paraphernalia are types of assets that you'll fit into your stash grid based on their size and shape. An asset has to fit into your stash grid if you want to own it. You don't have an armory back home, never mind the legal privilege to obtain such a thing if you could ever afford it. If you dump an asset to make room for another one, it's gone for good. Maybe you had to sell it to cover some miscellaneous expensive living. A staple is a type of gun that costs $0, provided for free by Sullivan Allworks. However, you can only have one of each staple at a time, and you cannot get staples from your squad mates' catalogs. Some guns and paraphernalia have utilities, which are special rules and effects that you can use during contracts according to their descriptions. Guns are distinct from paraphernalia in that they can be loaded with bullets. So guns aren't always guns. There's like, for example, on the very first catalog, page 20, you can see that under guns is baseball bat. So it's the only thing that makes something a gun is that it's an asset that you can modify with a bullets effect. Even if it's not literally a gun that you're loading with bullets.
Sometimes a gun is the friends you make along the way.
That is so true.
Tracking.
Yeah, the only guns I need are left and right.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming.
I'm so happy.
There is a Pharmacon. I think it's a Pharmacon that you can buy from one of the artillery catalogs that like turns your two fists into two assets that don't take up any space.
I mean, it's like it was written for me.
So bullets. Yeah, so guns are distinct from paraphernalia in that they can be loaded with bullets. You won't need to actually track any gun's ammo reserves. You always have enough ammo for your weapons until they break. Bullets are just special ammo that add an additional utility to the gun you load them into. When you rearrange your stash, you can load a bullet you purchase into any gun in your stash. To load multiple guns, you need to buy multiples of the bullets. Like assets, you cannot keep bullets in reserve. You have to load them as soon as you buy them. You can swap a bullet into a gun that already has one, or unload a bullet in general, but the unloaded bullet is lost. You don't get to reuse it. When a gun breaks, you lose the bullet it was loaded with too. Sorry. Pharmacons are accessories like bullets, but they are implanted into your meat assets, aka your own body. They provide utilities as long as the meat they're implanted in isn't broken. However, implanting pharmacons isn't as simple as loading a gun. To make use of any pharmacons you buy, you'll need to undergo surgery. You have to undergo implantation surgery immediately after buying your pharmacons. You can't keep them in reserve. And the same limitations on swapping and breaking that applied to bullets apply to pharmacons too. So this means that you have your three meat assets, but they're not interchangeable because you assign a pharmacon to a specific one, and then when you risk your meat, you can choose which one you're risking.
Gotcha.
Debt can allow you to spend beyond your means. Debt takes up space in your stash grid, 1 square per $200 of debt. You can pay off debt at any time outside of a contract for the amount you owe times 1.25. If you exceed the amount of debt you can hold in your stash grid, you are hunted down by collectors. Go into hiding or die. No one will pay for your resurrection with that kind of credit. If you find yourself stuck in debt and unable to pay it down, consider taking on some bounties from other corporations who might help you out. Just remember, nothing is truly free. Catalog items can be purchased at any time outside of a contract and are purchased on an individual per night basis unless otherwise specified.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, we each have $500. So if you look at page 19 and 20, page 19 is the general catalog.
Right.
That includes stuff like buying a new supplier account or price modifications for off-account purchases. So you can purchase assets and accessories from a catalog you do not have an account for, as long as one of your squad mates does. When you do so, the cost is its catalog price times 1.25. And then the other thing on that page is that you can like access right away if you want to is the compact model. You can purchase a variant model of a gun or paraphernalia optimized for storage space. When you purchase the compact model of a gun, you can ignore its shape and store it in any
Oof.
combination of squares in your stash equal to the number of squares it normally occupies. You can even put it in like different like little pieces, like it's a
Right.
disassembled thing. As a trade-off, this asset breaks on a 3 as well as a 1 or a 2 when you risk it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can make that switch with any gun that you buy, or any paraphernalia that you buy, um, for the same price. So for the actual catalogs you have access to, um, so we already went over that each type has a signature catalog, and you have your catalog from Sullivan. So like on page 20, we've got the bandit catalog for Sullivan all works. So
Mm-hmm.
every bandit starts out having access to all of these things. You can buy anything off this catalog, and you can buy anything off page 21, which is the Meridian
Right.
catalog for bandits, because you already have that. But the Bandit Eaglehawk catalog, the Bandit Python catalog, the Bandit Grundlebane catalog, and the Bandit Credence catalog, you cannot buy anything off of, um, unless one of your squad mates has one of those accounts, or unless you buy a supplier account, which to
Gotcha.
do, it is $4,000 to set up an account with a corporation that you have a link value of 4 with, and it is $2,000 to set up an account with a corporation you have
Gotcha.
a link value of 6 with.
Okay.
And if you were to ever lose access to your default accounts, you can reopen those for $1,000 each, which is something that can happen during treason runs. That's one of
Gotcha.
those really
Okay.
bad run consequences. So yeah, so basically everybody is starting off with 2 pages of stuff that they can buy. Um, so you're going to want to look for your type, bandit, artillery, or snake, and you've got the Sullivan catalog, and then you've got the very next page for your signature
Mm-hmm.
catalog. And at the very top of your Sullivan catalog, you've got 3 staples that you can take for free. You just have to fit them into your inventory, and you can only have 1 of each.
All right.
I feel like mine's gonna be really straightforward. I feel like I'm gonna do the double barrel, so like spend most of my money on it. Because when it breaks, it transforms, and you don't clear any squares. And the sawn off, it doesn't break on a roll of 2 on 2 cost tasks. And I want to make it the compact model. So,
Okay.
so I like that idea. And then we'll go with my last $50 with the lacerating bullets.
Okay, cool. And remember you can buy stuff on credit.
I know. I feel like I might do that in between when we play, but for the sake of like having this, I feel like that's the thing that makes the most sense to me.
Okay. The other thing to note, other things. So one thing to note is that this doesn't apply to the things that you've just said you're buying, but
Yeah,
remember that if you buy a Pharmacon, you have to
you
get it
have to
implanted.
surgery. Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a $300 appointment fee, which will cover you for any surgeries until your contract
Hmm.
ends. And then a $150 implantation fee per Pharmacon.
Pharmacon. Yeah.
Um, and then there's other things in the surgery that you can just like straight from the surgery menu that you can also buy here. You can buy a steroid injection for $1,000, which increases the die size of a single unbroken meat asset from D4 to D6 or from D6 to D8, and
Right.
that lasts until it breaks. And you can buy a blood transfusion for $1,000 to gain an additional D4 meat asset,
Gotcha.
which when it breaks cannot be restored by sutures.
And then I have a question on the staple guns. Like you can like you can have one staple gun period, or you can have like
No,
one of each kind.
one of each one. So yeah, so you can have
Ooh.
all three of those. They just have to fit into your
Into my inventory.
batch.
Okay, yeah, 100% that I'm gonna take those two.
Yep.
I am looking at how much debt I'm willing to take out, which is
Remember that you have to fit your debt into your stash grid too.
yeah. How much space does debt take?
One square's 200.
Yeah, $200 is 1 square.
Got you. Okay. Well, look, I have this space in the middle of my garrote.
Yeah.
Because it's just such an interesting shape that I can just write debt here. It's like it's not even there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, doesn't the snake have at least one thing they can buy that only takes up 1 space though?
Let me scroll.
Am I wrong? Maybe
The
I am
rock
wrong.
takes up 4 spaces, which is
Yeah, the
what I
small rock.
done.
Yeah. Hey, what am I thinking of?
Now-
Someone has an item that is only 1 square, I swear. Where is it?
Worries. It's a perfect size for debt, so we're not even going to think about it. We're just going to keep moving forward and not
Okay.
think about what I've
It's
done here.
debt. The answer is debt.
Yeah, the answer is debt. I wanted $200 worth of that anyway, because that lets me. What did I even want to buy? Did I just want to take debt out? What's going on with me?
For fun and profit.
There you go.
Oh, I need to take out more debt. That's what's happening. Okay.
Just to double check, Pharmacon is 300 for the surgery fee plus the cost of the Pharmacon.
Well, it's 300 to set up any amount of surgeries, so that's just like an upfront cost, and then per Pharmacon, there's another $150 surgery cost.
Okay, and then plus the cost
plus
of
the
the Pharmacon.
cost of the Pharmacon. Yes.
Okay. All right, so we write that down. 300.
Maybe I took this item out that I'm thinking of. I swear that there was like a lockpick item that only took up 1 square. I'm like obsessively looking for it now.
That's the worst when you're like, I know this was a thing.
Yeah, I think it must. Yeah, it must not be in here. Oh well.
So overall, just because I'm gay and bad at math, this $500 Pharmacon would cost me another $150 to do the surgery, so $650. And then was there an additional cost?
There was $300 to see the Corpsman at all, but you only have to pay that $300 once per contract.
Got you. So $950 for it. I could do 2 more debts. Yeah, I'm just gonna go very in debt. It's fine.
Gosh
We're
dang
not
it.
gonna think about it.
I think I'm gonna take out some debt too.
I think it's the right call.
So
Guys, you're taking out
in
debt,
real
making me
life-
look lame.
In real life and in
just do what I did.
Financial.
Just do what I did. Go in debt, and then do consumer consolidation credit.
oh, there we go.
Pro tip: don't do that. It's a bad idea.
Very bad idea. To be clear, it's a very bad idea.
Okay, but I gotta know how much debt are you going in? Because I've written down how much I have here, and I want to know if I got more than you.
$800.
1,100. So six squares total for 1,200.
I'm still deciding.
Oh, but my guns fit so good together in my little boxes. I am really pleased about it.
And then I gotta write up here under Pharmacon. I got God damn it! I accidentally closed the page it was on. Look at me being so excited to announce I had a thing. Neat and orderly. When I break an asset, I can clear all of its squares from my stash grid instead of only half.
Nice.
Oh no, or do I want Sea and
Oh
Darkness?
no, I need. Crap,
Do-
I am gonna need to go into debt. Son of a gun.
Oh, but if I take 1 more debt out, I could get 2.
This is the way of things. And I mean, the thing is that spending more money now might save you money on surgery later.
It's true. It's true.
Okay.
I'm so bad at math. This is why I usually play FFGs, because there's no math in it. But now I'm here doing math. You talked me to doing math.
I'm so proud of you. All right. I want to be able to see in darkness. I want to be able to announce I have dark vision. So.
Okay, I'm definitely taking double jump. That's a Pharmacon. I'm
It's very
spending
cool.
$600 to get the double jump because of all the associated surgery costs.
I feel like yeah,
puts me
I have to get the sanguine and melancholic Pharmacon.
Ooh.
I have to. So I'm gonna do it. So that's gonna be.
Just pulling my calculator out now.
I know, right? Let's calculate all of the things because it's gonna cost me $450 to like
Don't you
get them
crack-
implanted, right? To like open it, get it implanted, and then $450 for the actual thing itself.
Yep.
I think
So
for the first time ever, Affinity Publishers crashed on me, and I don't
Oh,
know.
no.
So
Oh
I'm just gonna think about it
no!
later. I think I saved recently. It's fine.
Don't say that. They won't
Hopefully.
sponsor you.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
no.
it didn't crash. This was on my end. I accidentally hit X. Please sponsor me.
Amazing.
Okay. I think I am going to buy the dualies, the Goldie, and the double jump and have the double jump implanted. So I'm going to go 1,050 in debt.
A
Which
bunch of my
is-
debt was wiped away.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go straight up 1,000 in debt and have 50 left over. Because then it'll make sense for my squares. Okay.
Okay, so I need 6 squares of debt. I think I'm just gonna like block out a row, maybe. It's probably not the smartest thing to do. It'd probably be smarter to
know.
strategically place them around, but
who knows?
you can always rearrange where the debt is in between contracts. So,
Okay, I've changed my mind and now I've taken out $1,200 of debt.
oh my god.
I had 200, so that brings me to 1,400. I'll do the math on the rest of that later.
Actually, no, I should, because I got to see how my stuff fits together to figure out where to put it, to be honest.
I was like, oh no, it wiped out Sarah's stash. And I was like, oh, I didn't put yours in yet. You can just send me that between sessions and I'll
yeah, we'll be fine.
I'll get it pretty for you.
You're the
Oh, by the
best.
way, these Tetris pieces, if it wasn't clear, you can rotate them any way you want to.
Oh yeah.
Good, because I did.
Yeah. I'd be very upset to find out right now that they're unrotatable.
Yeah. I mean, I called them Tetris pieces, so like it implies.
Yeah. And I'll do the math on how much my Pharmacons end up costing me later. But I'm all done, I believe.
Same. I'm excited. I don't like my little debt squares. They're giving me real life anxiety.
I made my debt squares black and wrote debt in bright red in the center.
How can we make this
such an ominous energy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to know how I know you're a millennial? It's just like, the real villain is dead.
And freaking out, and then going and opening your character sheet instead, where I don't have anything there.
Yeah, it's safe there. Stay there a while, buddy.
And then Clove, to the right of stash, there's like the 1 through 9. Is that just the items in your stash?
Yeah, so you can write down what each one is. You can fill in the bubble for what their die size is, and then when they break, you can fill in the X.
Okay, cool. I figured as much, but I was like, I just want to make sure there wasn't another step ahead.
No.
Cool. Great. Well, outside of just finishing up doing some Tetris thing, it sounds like we are done with character creating.
I believe so.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and do outros and stuff then.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Sammy, Clove, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's stream. I'm so excited to play this game next week.
Thank you for having me.
I think this is such a cool game. Like, even like the character creation was super slick, and I'm having fun with my little Tetris pieces, and 100% I'm gonna like change them like 5 times before we start. But thank you so much for coming out. We're gonna go ahead and just pass it over to you guys. We'll start with you, Clove, just to remind the people who you are, where they can find you, and what's the best way to support you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Once again, I'm Clove Fulminata. I'm at Clove RPG on Twitter, and you can find all the stuff that I make at Clove.Games.
Awesome. And Sammy.
Yeah, I'm on the internet. It's always a delight to be here. Yeah, I have nothing to plug, so I don't do anything.
Okay.
So
That's fine. Keegan, tell the people about yourself.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to go first because I am pulling up the +1 monthly calendar.
Yes, I will go first. Hi, hello. I am Oserix Franco. I'm a high-level monk and co-cult leader here on Cult EXE on +1 EXP. I do a bunch of TTRPG stuff here and across several other amazing communities. You can find me all the places at Oserix Franco to know what I'm going to be up to. The next time I'm doing a thing is over at Nat 20 tomorrow night, so come check that out. And oh yeah, go for it, Clove.
I just wanted to put up the notice finger for when you were done. I just remembered that something that we haven't mentioned next stream, the like play stream, we might be giving away one of these
Oh
hardcover
my
books.
gosh!
Oh,
We
right.
haven't
Amazing!
discussed the logistics, but like we're gonna try to.
We'll figure it
Oh,
out next.
I
Yeah,
just
we'll
hit my
figure it
own
out
computer.
between. We'll figure it out during this week.
Yes,
Yeah,
That's
that
what I was
makes me
trying to
very
say.
excited. So definitely come back for that, where we're gonna play these amazing characters that we just created. Keegan, what do you got going on, and what's going on here at +1 EXP?
Yeah, I'm Keegan XE. You can find me online at KeeganEXE or KeeganEXE.com. Yeah, you mainly find me here on +1 doing cult stuff. Next week we have part 2 of this choke session. It'll be the actual play portion of it. Then we'll be back on the 27th. We're playing Raven's Crest, which is a genre horror RPG where you're like high schoolers in like a high school doing horror stuff. I'm clearly out of it right now. We'll be back on the 28th with Goth Court, and 20 to 30 players should be something.
Buck wild.
And then we'll be back again on the 30th for the zone.
Yeah.
And that's it for us.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and head out, but we hope that you join us next week and enjoy your pizza. See you later.